Hello students, in this video I'm going to explain how to complete the week 7 midweek assignment. So this is the description of the assignment. So you're using Microsoft Excel and you're going to compute a t-test comparing the height of males and the height of females. So it says you must determine which type of test to compute, between subjects or within subjects. So as you know, the height of males and females is independent, meaning they're two separate groups. So the group of males, those people are only in that group, and the group of females are only in that group. So because they're two independent groups, that would be the independent groups t-test or the two sample t-test. So after you do that, you're also going to move your output into the Microsoft Word document. So that's just copying and pasting it. So you're not submitting the Excel file for this, you're just submitting a Word document, but you do need to copy and paste the results into the Word document. And then you're going to write a 1-paragraph APA formatted interpretation of the results. So what you're going to do is open up that file that you used for the week 1 midweek assignment. So the file with age, height, sex, and you're in college. And the way I did this, you remember last time I conducted the one sample t-test. So that's the data from that. And the easiest way for you to do this, what you can do is you can just put your cursor on where I've named it one sample t-test. Yours might be called something else, but just right click and then you want to move or copy. And then make sure you check the create a copy box. And I want to move it to the end and then click OK. So it basically makes an exact copy. And then because I'm going to do something different, the reason why I'm doing this is I want to save the work I did for the one sample t-test, but I want to do something new with it. So I'm going to rename this, and you just can do that by clicking on that. And then I'm going to call it 2 sample t-test. And I'm following the example, and of course you want to delete everything from the one sample t-test because you're going to be doing something new. And then if you want to get rid of these lines that Excel puts in, you can just go to Home. I mean, not that it really matters, but just click No Border, and that just gets rid of those lines. So what you need to follow for this is this course resource. So compute independent samples. And of course, it's not doing the assignment for you. It's using a different example. So it's using this data set as an example. But you will use your week 1 midweek assignment data. So you can follow all of this. And this part of it, it talks about, as you learn about between subjects designs, you need to organize the data in a different way. So you need to have one column for each level of the independent variable. And in this case, it's male and female. So you need to do that with your file. So the easiest way to do that is to sort the file by sex. And the way you do that is you select all the headings and all the rows. And make sure you don't get this part of it in where you identified what the numbers mean. Just get the actual data in that to sort. And then data sort. And then you want to sort by sex. And then make sure the My Data Has Headers is checked, and then click OK. Okay, I guess I didn't click on sex. So then just click OK. And you can see it sorted by sex. So all the ones are first, and then all the twos. So in my file, I identified 1 as male and 2 as female. So what I'm going to do, somewhere over here, it doesn't really matter where, you can type those levels of the independent variable. And just to be consistent, I'm just going to bold those because I have the other headings bolded. It doesn't really matter if you do that. And then the easiest way to do that, all your 1s are first, so those are the men. So you can just copy and paste their heights for the men, and just make sure you get all the men. Just don't go any further. So just copy, and then put this here, and then paste. And for this, you should have 20 men and 20 women, so just double check to make sure you have the right data. And then I'm going to do the same thing for females. I'm going to copy and paste the height of the females into my female column. So according to your lecture, this is the way you need to have things set up when you do a between subjects analysis, meaning 2 independent groups. So that's the 2 sample t-test. So then you're going to go to data and data analysis. And I already have this selected because I was using this earlier, but you'll have to scroll through because remember before we used descriptive statistics and this time we're going to use t-tests for 2 samples, and then you're going to assume equal variances. And then just click OK. And then you're going to, so pretend these are blank, because when you open it up, they'll be blank. So then you want to select variable 1 for range, for the range for that, and variable 1, and get the header in there, get the heading of male, and then select all the data. And I put that in the wrong spot. So make sure you have your cursor in the right area when you start to do this. So you'll just select male and then all the numbers in that column. And then you can double check because it's basically row 1 through row 21. And then put your cursor in variable range 2 and select all the data for the females, including the heading, female. Okay, so we have that. You don't need to put anything for hypothesized mean difference. Make sure labels is checked and make sure alpha is 0.05. And then your output range can be anywhere you want. And so I'm just going to put it here. So basically I want the output in M1. And then you can just double check on this just to make sure it's correct. I always double check. So the males are in column I, and that spans rows 1 through 21. Females are in column J, and it spans rows 1 through 21. And I have everything else I need. It's going to put the output in M1, and then I just click OK. And so my sample is a little unusual because just in general in the United States, the average height of males would be taller than females, but you can see it's the opposite for my sample. And again, if something's cut off, you can see that some of the text is cut off here. It just means your column's not big enough. So you just double click between the columns and then you can see all the text. So what we're looking at, in a good double check observations, there should be 20 in each group. So if you end up with something strange like 19 and then 20, you know that when you were selecting the variables, you missed one. You missed a piece of data, and just go back and redo it. So important things for you to know for your write-up. So remember when we did the one sample t-test, degrees of freedom were n minus 1, where n is the number of people in the sample. So this time, degrees of freedom would be n minus 2. So meaning the number of people in the sample again, but because we have two independent groups, we're subtracting 2. Our calculated t-statistic is negative 4.84032, and you won't need to use a t-table this time. Remember last time for the one sample t-test you used a t-table with critical values because Excel didn't calculate the probability. But this time you won't have to do that. So this is our calculated t-statistic, and then we're doing a two-tailed test because we don't have a specific prediction that men are taller than women or women are taller than men. And this E means that it's just that Excel uses scientific notation, which is a shortcut when you have a lot of decimal places. And if you want to know what this really is, so don't misinterpret this. P is not 2.18. So click on it, and then you'll see up here what the actual p-value is. And so the actual p-value will never be 0. But you can see it's very close. So it's 0.00000, so it's a lot of zeros and then some numbers. So you don't have to report all those numbers. Usually we would just say p less than 0.001, something like that, meaning that the p-value is very small. And it does give you the critical value of t for two-test, but you don't really need that because all you need is your p-value, really. So remember, by convention in psychology, we reject the null hypothesis if p is less than 0.05. And you can see that this p-value is a lot less than 0.05. So we would reject the null hypothesis in this case and say that females are significantly taller than the males. Now keep in mind this is data I created for the week 1 midweek assignment, and everyone created different data. So you need to use your data. Don't use my data. Use the data that you created. So you might have something different. Your difference between males and females, there may be no significant difference. So evaluate your own data. This is just an example using my data. So we have all this, and as the instructions in the PDF, so the course material, it talks about how you're going to calculate the standard deviation because you're going to need the standard deviation for your APA style write-up. So this output doesn't give you the standard deviation, but all you need to take is the variance. So you need to look for the variance and then find the square root of the variance. So we'll go back here and you can see that the variance, and so you need to do this for the males and you need to do this for the females, because in your write-up, so this is an example. So you're going to say an independent samples t-test was, and I don't like that word run. You can use it if it's fine. I say conducted because you're conducting the analysis to test the hypothesis that there are differences. And of course, it's not anxiety. This is just an example. So for us, it would be differences in height between males and females. So in this example, the test was not significant, but in mine it was. And what you're going to report is the actual value of t, the degrees of freedom, which as I mentioned for this case would be n minus 2. So you're reporting the critical value of t. Like I said, if you get a p-value that's really, really small like I did, all you have to say, don't say p equals, because we're not going to type that entire number in my case. I mean, you may get something that's a lot bigger, or you may get something that's not significant, but in my case, I would type p less than 0.001, and then you're going to give the mean, for the males and the standard deviation for the males, and then the mean for the females and the standard deviation for the females. So keep in mind, this is just an example based on what was presented in this um, course lecture or course material, whatever you want to call it. So it's just an example for you to learn from. So you're not going to talk about anxiety and boys and girls and things like that, because we have men and women, they're college age students. So just use this to learn the correct format. Don't copy this. So going back to my output, for my males, my variance is, and you can round to 2 decimal places, so my variance is 12.36579. Just pull up the calculator, and you can say I already did this, but pull up the calculator on your computer or your phone, and then just type 12.37, and then hit the square root key, and this tells you what your standard deviation is. So my standard deviation for the men is 3.5, rounding it would be 3.52, and then you would do that for the females. So the reason why this data isn't in the females column as well is because just the mean, variance, number of observations, that's the only thing that applies to each group individually. The rest of the analysis is looking at the groups, the analysis between the groups, differences between the groups. So this pooled variance, mean difference, degrees of freedom, that applies to the entire sample. So you're going to use those numbers and you're going to do the APA formatted write-up. And I know that it's a lot of material, but you can replay this video to the sections that you need to listen to again. So you have one document that you're submitting. It's a Microsoft Word document with a properly formatted title page. I keep mentioning this, but if you don't do that, you lose. If you just don't include any title page at all, you're losing 3 points. There are points allocated towards APA formatting in this class. So if you just don't put a title page, you lose 3 points right off the top. If you include a title page but it's wrong, that's a deduction of 2 points. So I included a template, so please use it. So you'll have a Microsoft Word document with a title page, and then you'll have this write-up using this as an example, but you'll use your own specific data. And then you'll copy and paste what you just did into that. So it would probably be a good idea to copy how you reorganize the data, so do that as well. So just copy and paste this part. So how you reorganize the data for between subjects design. So just select it all. Sorry. I mean, I think you know how to do this. So just select all the data, right click, copy, and then go to your Word document and click paste. And that's all you need to do. So that's a description of the assignment. Like I said, it was probably a lot to take in. I went over it pretty quickly, but like I said, you can replay the parts of the video that you need to go over again if something was unclear. So please send me a message if you have any questions about this.